The Seven Triads of C Major, Part 1, Connecting Triads a third or sixth apart, and the leading tone. Listen to this progression of four-voice harmony. This is an example of how to artistically link the seven diatonic scale triads using smooth voice leading in simple or plain vanilla counterpoint. While reading through that example, you may have noticed that each triad shared two common tones with the next one, which is possible when triads are situated either a third or a sixth apart. Here are some more. And so forth. Recalling some of the rules for four-voice writing, most of the time, when moving from one chord to the next, we should usually retain common tones in the same voices. In addition, when moving from one triad to the next, each voice moves by step to the closest chord tone of the next triad, avoiding leaps and skips between dissimilar chords, except in the bass. Observe how common tones can be retained through the use of a few longer note values within the same measure, as well as ties connecting across bar lines. This is based on an example in the Elementary Principles of Harmony book linked in the description. Notice the Roman numerals as well. They show the function of each chord within the context of the key, which is C major. Here, too, the three upper voices almost always move from one chord tone to the nearest tone of the next triad. Mastering this technique requires forethought on the part of the student, planning ahead. Let's look a little closer at the final measure of that last example. It puts to work the diminished triad of the seventh scale degree. The seventh scale degree is named the leading tone because one of its functions is to lead into the root or fundamental tone, the keynote or tonic of the scale. The leading tone yearns to resolve into the octave of the fundamental tone of the scale. Tito. This is exactly what we hear and see in the authentic or 5-1 cadence. Tito. When the leading tone does not resolve to the tonic scale degree, we do not experience a satisfactory feeling of progression, which can be a bit of an issue in a 5-1 cadence. This is most disconcerting when the leading tone occurs in the highest voice, the soprano. Now here is the 7 chord in which the leading tone is the root of the triad. In 4-part writing, we usually aim to double the root of a triad. It's one of the rules, right? Well, if we double the root of the 7 chord, we are doubling the leading tone, and since both leading tones want to move to the tonic, we end up with parallel octaves, which is against the rules. Not good. So, in strict 4-voice writing, there is another rule about the use of the leading tone. If and when a chord containing the leading tone resolves directly into the tonic triad, into the 1 chord, do not double the leading tone. On the other hand, In the earlier example, the leading tone was doubled on the second beat of the measure, but because in this special case the 7 chord did not resolve into the tonic triad, the subsequent triad is a 2 chord. The voice leading of the doubled leading tone is not a big issue here. We'll learn more about the leading tone triad when we study chord inversions. Assignment number 1. You, the student, must play through this example on the piano keyboard, then fill in the chord functions, that is, the missing Roman numerals, before each bass note. Assignment number 2. The bass line, key, and function, that is, Roman numerals, are given. Also, the first chord is written out. You, the student, must work out the 3 upper voices, that is, the soprano, alto, and tenor lines. That's it for now. Today, we learned about connecting diatonic scale triads that are a third or a sixth apart. Future installments will discuss connecting the same triads set at other intervals from each other, so be sure to subscribe, share this video, and post a comment or suggestion if you like. Here is food for thought. Extra credit! So now 4 of the 7 scale degrees in triads have proper names. 1 tonic, 4 subdominant, 5 dominant, and 7 leading tone. You ought to memorize these 4 names, as we shall often refer to them in connection with the Roman numerals of scale degrees and chords. Thank you for watching.